right, here we are, NAMM 2016. We're at Marion Systems, and Marion Systems is, as you may all know, Mr. Tom Oberheim.
Hi
here.
there.
And we're going to talk to him about some exciting new pieces he's got here, announced together with Dave Smith from Dave Smith Instruments. We've got the OB6.
The OB6.
So tell us a little bit about this beautiful instrument.
Well, the OB6, from my point of view, is a wonderful amalgam of some really amazing technology that Dave and his crew have developed in terms of control and digital effects and things that I've never done, combined with basically circuitry that's in my classic synthesizer expander module. So it has some marvelous features that Dave and company have developed in terms of control and digital effects and other features not unlike some of the other DSI products. But it's got circuitry that is essentially the same circuitry as in an S.E.M.
Is that why you went after a 6-voice instead of everybody who knows of the OB8? Because it kind of fit the footprint of the Prophet 6?
It fits, yeah, exactly what you said. It's the same basic footprint, you might say, and feature set on some of the control areas as a Prophet 6, but including this. When I saw the Prophet 6 and got to know it a little bit a year or so ago when it came out, it's really a very advanced technology as far as the control and digital effects are concerned. And then Dave came to me within the last year and suggested that together we do a version that uses S.E.M. circuitry, and that's what we have.
Well, and obviously the OB8 is still sells quite well on eBay and on the internet, people looking for them, but obviously this is a much easier piece of equipment to take on the road. The OB8 was very heavy. And
big,
and it was much bigger. Let me ask you:
let's not, before we leave that comparison to the OB8, there's another thing that's very important, I feel, and that the OB8, just like the OBXA, was Curtis chips, whereas the OBX and the earlier Oberheim modular stuff was discrete circuitry, all based on the S.E.M. circuitry, and this is more of that OBX modular 4-voice, 8-voice sound.
Now, is the filter same type filter?
Filter just like out of the S.E.M.
Wow.
It's a 2-pole with notch, as well as low pass and high pass with some other features. Yeah, it's an S.E.M. really.
Okay, I think this question will kind of tie into two different things. One, well, we're going to talk about the Eurorack SEM that you've got over here. It's not in front of us, but you can see it online at Marion Systems, and go check that out. Kind of this scenario pulled you back into the business because everybody was screaming for like an S.E.M. or there was never an emulation that ever really did justice to the original. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of came back into this and how Eurorack has played into this launch.
Well, the way I got, now there's been other people, especially Dave Smith, that since this analog revolution or revival back in the early 2000s, I was pretty much retired. I said, well, maybe it's over for me. You know? So, but then in 2008, I was invited to be interviewed at the annual Red Bull Music Academy. That year it was in Barcelona. So I went there and they asked me to bring some kind of Oberheim with me, and I didn't want to carry my OB8. So I took an S.E.M. I had an S.E.M. I got it out of the attic, dusted it off, turned it on. A few capacitors blew, I fixed those. Took it over with me. They had I hooked up a simple little MIDI interface, and they had a MIDI keyboard there, and I played it. I thought, I'll show it to people, and you know, history, right? It's history. But 4 or 5 people came up to me after this, these Red Bull invitees, people making music there at that Red Bull event, said, can I buy one? I thought, well, Yeah, well, I'm not making them anymore. So I went home, this is the end of 2008, and I decided, well, maybe I'll make a few in the garage and assemble them on the dining room table, sell 2 or 3 a month. It might be fun. Well, in 2 years, I'd sold almost 1,000. I thought, wait a minute, something's going on. So it got my attention. I got back into looking at what's going on, and I said, hey, analog's back. I was just a little late getting the word, little late. But then I looked around, and then I started looking at what was going on in modular, or the Eurorack thing, and the explosion in that. And I said, I'm getting back in.
Yeah.
So I am back.
And we're glad you are. Let me ask you, doing this obviously when you were a pioneer in analog synthesis, and doing it today, some people might think that it's easier to do today because of, stuff that you can get, but is it more difficult? Like when you design a circuit or you design stuff, is it some of this stuff available off the shelf, or do you have to literally get somebody to completely manufacture from the ground up?
It's the opposite of that. When I got back into it, like I said, after this Red Bull trip, and decided to make some S.E.Ms, the S.E.M was developed in 1974 when there were no Curtis chips, there were no even microprocessors weren't economical then, so it was just a simple, discrete design with op-amps and resistors, capacitors, and we went through the period where Doug Curtis came along with the Curtis chips, and those were really great because they combine a lot of analog power in custom chips. But unfortunately, Doug's gone now. And now Dave's been able to use one of the Curtis chips for a number of years in many of his most of the products up to, I think, the Prophet Pro 2 maybe. I don't remember now for sure, but now we're back to, meaning me, Tom Oberheim, are back to the S.E.M just as I built it in 1974. There's no new chips, there's no new fancy technology. It's literally 1974 technology, and it sounded good, and it sounds good today.
Excellent. Well, I tell you what, we hope that we're going to see a lot coming out of Marion Systems and Tom Oberheim for some time to come, and we hope the fat lady doesn't sing for a long time.
A long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.